Hello, world. This is Tommy Hagewood coming to you from Leesburg, Florida, the lakefront city in the Sunshine State. It's 82 degrees on the way to 89. This is Monday, May the 18th, 2020. It's overcast outside, but the sun is shining brightly above the clouds. I hope you're having a wonderful day. The year was 2011. My daughter and her family had just moved to Georgia from West Tennessee. It was Wednesday evening, March the 2nd, the night before our fourth grandson, Zachary, was born. The other three grandsons, Jackson 7, Preston 5, and Nathaniel 3, their father and my wife were on their way to Wednesday night Bible study. The boys were talking about what they'd be studying in Bible class when Jackson spoke up and said, "I want to go to Paris when I die." Preston, somewhat surprised, said, "You want to go to Paris, Tennessee when you die?" Their father spoke up and said, "Jackson, you probably meant to say paradise." "Yes, that's what I meant," Jackson said. Kids say the cutest things in their childlike honesty. As the song says, everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die. I wonder sometimes how many people think about death as they age in life. Young people don't think about it because they often think they're going to live forever, or that death is so far away that they don't think about it. Older folks don't think about it because they have become hardened over the years in their thinking and become set in their ways and cannot be touched by the gospel message. Dying is not a pleasant thought, but it is one about which we should give serious consideration. Since heaven is a prepared place for a prepared people, no one gets there by accident, and if you miss heaven, you will have missed all there is. Jesus summarized what it takes to get to heaven in Matthew 18, 1 through 4. His disciples were arguing about who would be the greatest in his coming kingdom. Obviously, they had the wrong concept about what Jesus' kingdom was going to be. They thought it would be a literal earthly kingdom like that of David. But Jesus' kingdom was to be and is a spiritual kingdom, a kingdom in this world but not of this world, as we note in John 18:36 and 37. At that time, the disciples came to Jesus saying, "Who's the greatest in the kingdom of heaven?" Jesus called a little child to him and set him in the midst of them and said, "Assuredly I say to you, unless you are converted and become as little children, you will by no means enter the kingdom of heaven. Therefore whoever humbles himself as this little child is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven." Jesus used a little child to illustrate what it takes to get to heaven. First, one must be humble as a little child. The child does not seek prominence as Jesus' disciples were doing. Jesus himself illustrates this best of all as expressed in Matthew chapter 20, verses 25 through 28. But Jesus called them to himself and said, "You know that the rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and those who exercise authority over them. Yet it shall not be so among you. But whoever desires to be great among you, let him be your servant. And whoever desires to be first among you, let him be your slave. Just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life a ransom for many." Jesus humbled himself when he left heaven and came to the earth as a man. He humbled himself to be obedient to his Father's will, even to the point of death, even the death of the cross, according to Philippians 2, verse 8. Second, a little child is dependent on his or her parents for the needs of life. Similarly, we must be dependent upon our Father in order that we might please him. For it's in him that we live and move and have our very existence, according to Acts 17:28. We like to think we're independent, but our present COVID-19 crisis shows us how helpless and how dependent we are on God. God alone knows what lies ahead in our uncertain future. Third, like the little child, we must exercise complete trust. I like what William Barclay says in his commentary on Matthew on this passage. When we are children, we're set out on a journey with no means of paying the fare, and with no idea of how to get to our journey's end, and yet it never enters our heart to doubt that our parents will bring us there safely. End of quote. That's the kind of trust in God that Christians need to have in order to get to heaven. The Lord told his disciples unless they were converted, they would not enter the kingdom of heaven. This meant they would have to turn around from the direction they were traveling in and go in the opposite direction if they wanted to please God. So we must do the same. Are you humble and trusting enough to submit to God's will regardless of the consequences, the cost, or the circumstances? If not, you may go to Paris, Tennessee, or to Paris, France, but you'll never make it to heaven. Remember, Search the Scriptures, serve the Lord, and share the gospel with others. Too much is at stake to miss heaven because you're distracted by this world and its allurements. Till next time, this is Tommy Hagewood wishing for you a very pleasant good day.